all the big calls on all those big races. Welcome back to another What a Shout, the Racing Post flagship feature weekend show, brought to you somewhere in the capital on a very blustery Friday morning. Let me tell you, Storm Eunice causing havoc out there. Just the one domestic card. Even Dundalk in Ireland has gone on Friday evening. Fingers crossed for the big cards out there, because there is some super competitive action. Talking about being super competitive, wait till you see the panel we've got for you. We've got a great guest coming up as well. If you're watching on YouTube, do like and subscribe. Get involved on Facebook. Let the panellists know your comments below, and anything on Twitter, hashtag What a Shout. Brought to you, of course, by our sponsors, Bet365. And let's go straight to him. And he's been waiting very patiently. Pat Cooney, great to have you back.
Yes, looking forward to it. Yes, we're all being beaten by Storm Eunice at the moment, but hopefully it can relent, because, as you say, there's some real informative races this weekend for us all to look at.
There is, and I have to say that despite some, protestations, I am joined in the studio by the bear himself, Graeme Rodway. Now, I thought that you were going to be Mary Poppins and something, just get blown away. If you saw the string of emails that we had saying, I don't know if I can come in on Friday morning, the train's going to be cancelled. He lives in Chelmsford, they were racing there last night. You're here, fine. What's he on about, man? It's nothing.
You know what? Last night in near my house, there was not a breath of wind. It was just the calm before the big storm, and the big storm's here now. Dave, I have managed to get here. Whether I'll get home or not is another question. But let's hope that Storm Eunice doesn't do too much damage.
It's a bizarre name, isn't it?
Storm Eunice. Apparently, I heard on the way in that you can choose these names and you poll them. Is that right?
Really?
Yeah. You can send in names, and everyone sends in names for storms.
Is it alphabetical?
And then, alphabetical. But then they choose the one that is top of the list.
Well, we had Storm Malik just the other day, didn't we? Anyway, whatever's happening.
Storm Dudley, wasn't it?
Was it Dudley? Dudley and Dudley, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Malik and Dudley and... Oh, OK, all right, fair enough.
Let's hope there's no more storms the rest of this year, though.
Well, we're still waiting for a big freeze, aren't we? Which will be a topical point a little bit later on in the show. Let's have a look at exactly what we've got coming up for you and get on with it. OK, we've got the big race previews for you after a super interview with Gary Moore, the Sussex trainer, having the time of his life. Gary comes on and tells us all about his big hopes this weekend and beyond. We'll be having a little look at the Grand National weights, which were revealed this week, talking about what the race has become, who's your fancy, and of course, those all-important weekend winners. Well, it's a warm welcome back to What a Shout to Sussex trainer Gary Moore. Let's go down and see Gary. Good morning, Gary. Thanks for coming on.
Good morning. Morning to you.
Best ever jump season, Gary, and it's fair to say 2022 has been kind so far. More winners this week. Gamble landed at Sandown on the Thursday in the first race. Minucci will look like he was in a completely different league to the rest. What's the secret so far since the turn of the year?
Better class of horses, healthy horses, and I've got a very good team behind me.
Yeah, 100 horses then, Gary, down at your operation. We were talking off air just quickly. Lots being said at the moment, Gary, about these small fields. The BHA's getting involved, the bookies are getting involved, pundits are getting involved. Everyone's a little bit frustrated with it. But you think that we might be overcomplicating it slightly?
I do, yeah, definitely. Like I said earlier, if horses aren't healthy and the ground is not suiting some, what can you do? And we've had a lot of racing, from the start of the season. We haven't missed a day hardly, which we normally do, miss a few meetings here and there because of the weather. But I don't think any meeting's been called off with frost yet this year.
Yeah, it looks like.
So
Yeah, it looks like that might be coming, doesn't it? At some point, let's hope it's not around March time. You mentioned the weather. Obviously, lots being said about Storm Eunice out there. Bizarrely named storms that we get. What's it like for the stable staff this morning, Gary? We're filming on Friday morning, of course, faking them off, Lingfield off. I assume you might have been going to the latter. I mean, how do the horses... It's far from ideal, this, is it?
It's not fair ideal for anyone, is it? But because we train in a complete place of we don't have to go on roads or anything like that, and we're in the yard sort of thing. We're very enclosed. So we started an hour earlier this morning, got all the horses out and everything that finished exercise by 10 o'clock, just after.
Yeah, all right, let's hope.
When the storm was supposed to get its worst, or start to get its worst.
Yeah, okay, so assuming that Ascot is on, let's hope it is tomorrow, of course, on Saturday, and Haydock as well, you've got some big runners. I'll go through them if you don't mind, Gary. Starting in the 115, the opener there. He could be the one, ex-French horse, 2 from 3 for you. Bumped into one, didn't he, at Newbury? Made amends, I say made amends. He looks like a good stayer in the making.
I certainly hope so. You know, like I ran him over 2 miles. I thought he was a strong traveller, and bumped into a very well handicapped horse, you know. And at Wincanton, I think 2.5 miles this trip. There's just 2 in there tomorrow that you'd be scared of, but he scored very well this morning, and I'm very happy with him.
People that know you, Gary, will know that you'll be looking at a mark of 122 for a horse like this. And I thought I might be seeing him in an handicap next time. Is it still just about education then?
Well, a little bit of education. To be perfectly honest, it's a £25,000 race, and I didn't think it was over strong for 25,000. So sometimes you've got to wreck your mark, hopefully, and suffer the consequences another day.
Well, you don't often hear Mr. Moore saying that. All right, 225 then. Let's move on. One of the feature handicaps there. Larry takes his part. He's a course winner, this chap. He had a leg before Gary, didn't he? But he's a good horse on his day. He tends to hit a flat spot, but he'll be running on when others are crying enough.
That's what we hope, you know. And the reason he goes there is because he runs his best races at Ascot. I think Ascot suits him well. He's got a great racing weight, so he just deserves to take his chance. Owners was very keen to go as well. It's a valuable race, so Owners having a good run at the moment, so he wants to keep it going.
Yeah, fair play. All right, 410 then, a horse that's been expertly placed by you all down there. Infoul, of course. He had some really good form on the flat, this chap, didn't he? Took a bit of time to find his feet over hurdles. What about the ground tomorrow for him? I mean, he started off 99, Gary. What's he on tomorrow? 117 now. It's been a remarkable run for him. 4 from his last 6. Yeah,
he's been a great horse this season, you know, like he's finally come back to himself. He's the horse we always thought he was. I think that stepping him up to 3 miles helped quite a lot. And he was a little bit unlucky around. He probably bumped into one, but he did nearly get brought down as well around there a few weeks back. It's a track that suits him because he's got plenty of time. You are right. We would be concerned if the ground got very heavy there. But he wouldn't run if it was heavy, you know. Soft, he might just get away with good to soft. But I think the worst part of the track is really Swindley Bottom. The rest of the track won't be too bad.
That's interesting. He looks like a horse that just keeps finding, doesn't he? Let's go up to Haydock then, Gary. Hope this is on. The Victor Ladorum. It's been a Paul Nicholls benefit in recent years. The champion training doesn't have a runner, but we do have Grade 1 winner in there, courtesy of your Porticello, who's caught the imagination of a lot of people, Gary, coming into this season.
Yeah, he's a lovely horse. He's a horse for the future. And I'm desperate to run him now. Please God, it is on. You know, he's in great order. And I do think it's a very winnable race for him. And then if he runs well there and he gets reasonable ground, he may go and run in the Triumph. But it could well be his last run of the season, if that's the case, you know.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there were hurdles omitted at Chepstow, weren't there? And a lot of people then bundled onto him because his jumping didn't impress everyone so far. But that Doncaster form's looking a bit better. Night Salute was fancied by a couple of long-range judges for the Triumph as well. Impulsive one as one. So if he comes through this all right, I mean, are you minding this guy for a fence? That's in the back of my mind as well.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. But that's in 2 years' time sort of thing, you know. He is talented. He's a lovely horse, you know, and he's got a patient owner. So I've got horses like him are hard to find. They don't come along very often, so you have to mind him, and that's why I've placed him the way I have.
You'd think it was job done being a Grade 1 winner already for a juvenile, wouldn't you, Judas? Bring in Mr. Rodway here, but if any trainer deserves to win the Triumph Hurdle, it's got to be Gary Moore, hasn't it?
Yeah, after what happened to Goshen, well, obviously hugely unlucky, wasn't he, a few years ago?
Yeah, it's something of your horse, Goshen, because this time last year, you were in this studio watching the race with me when he won the at a Kingwell, and you said, this wins the Champion Hurdle.
Well, he was so good, wasn't he, in the Kingwell last year? I was like, oh, you know, looked like an absolute machine. I think even Tom Siegel, price-wise, was onto him, wasn't he? Put him up for the Champion Hurdle.
So did I, yeah.
But, yeah, it didn't quite work out, did it, on the day?
No, let's come to Gary then. This bloke has had you obviously tearing your hair out. That interview with Matt Chapman and Jamie Moore when he got off him at your son Jamie, obviously, at Lingfield was one of probably the best interviews of the season. He had him absolutely tearing his hair up, but you resisted the temptation to put cheek pieces on or blinkers or whatever you might. He goes back right-handed again at Sandown in the Contenders the other day, and he was mustard, Gary, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. That's the true Goshen, when he goes right-handed on soft ground, he's a hard horse to beat. It's just a shame the champion hurdle isn't run at Sandown, to be honest with you. I think he'd have a serious chance, but it isn't. So we avoid going left-handed as much as we can. So, but I'm looking forward to running the Kingwell tomorrow. I know the pipe horse is very strongly fancied. Would like to think we've got the beating of that.
Yeah, you've got to give him a bit of weight, haven't you? But he probably is a bit more of a grinder, Adagio, and obviously he's coming off a bit of a tendon or whatever he had as well. One question I've got with you, Gary. Say he comes through this with, flying honours again tomorrow. He's 87 on the flat. We know that when he arrived on the scene, there was lots of pressure to maybe keep and go for those valuable flat handicaps. Have you got a mark of 87 on your back of your mind?
Yeah, because he's going to be limited where he goes after Saturday, because there's very few options for him, right-handed, But like you could poke him in some flat. On the same with the flat, he's got to go right-handed on the flat as well. It's no good trying to go left there. I know he won it Brighton, and you could say that's sort of left-handed. But a lot of water's gone under the river since then, under the bridge since then. So, as he's got older, he's got more right hand down sort of thing, So, but a mark on the flat is probably workable, but he would have to be on soft ground, which you don't very often get on the flat.
A deluge. Well, you do at Royal Ascot now, Gary. It's all turned on its head this weather, isn't it? Like you said,
well, yeah.
If it rains at Royal Ascot, we're looking at the Ascot stage. You better dust off that top hat again.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, that would always be in the back of my mind. But what do? Do you let horses down, bring them back, and muck them about too much? But with the way he's not getting any younger now, and it definitely would be in the back of my mind that we'd have a go at that. 100%.
Okay, that's great, Gary. Listen, just before we sign off, it's been great to have you on. Let's look a little bit further afield. Obviously, February the 5th at Sandown, that great day when you had treble across the cards, all the sons rode it. A seriously good day for racing and the family as well. Shall we have one more in the opener there, Gary? I know you were tempted to go to the Dovecote, which is this time next week. How's he doing? Is he settling down a little bit now?
Yeah, he's settling down lovely. He's in a great place with himself. I'm very, very, very pleased with him. Looking forward to running him next Saturday. As long as we get some nice ground there, I think he'd have a serious chance.
He's a Kempton winner, of course, in the bumper. He was super impressive that day. Are you thinking Supreme if he comes through that, or is he more of an Aintree horse?
I think I'm not quite sure what course that's running. If it's run the Sharp 2, then I think I would let him run in Supreme. The owner is very keen to, like most owners, have a runner at Cheltenham. I've talked him out of Goshen running there, so he might have to let him go there,
Yeah, well, we've not even had the handicap entries out, so I'm going to spare you that one, Gary, but I'll be looking very closely, like G-Rod will as well, at your entries there. Editor Jashik, just before we sign off, Gary, what's the news on him? Obviously, he missed out at a game Spirit. Again, this is the time of year we're here at the Racing Post and Weatherby's and all that sort of stuff. We're looking for our sort of darker horses in racing. Obviously, the Champion Chase is one for the ages. I mean, he could run £10 better than he ever has done and potentially finish 5th, couldn't he, this year? But is that still the intended target? Because he loves the gaff.
I'm afraid it is, yeah. He does. And that's why he's got to go there. It's just a shame I couldn't run him on last Saturday, but if he wasn't healthy, hence why he didn't run. So we try and get him 100% right, 110% right for Cheltenham, and give him his chance, which he deserves.
Yeah, absolutely. That form is working out in Handicap Company. Okay, Gary, just before we go, one horse that you can give our viewers this weekend. Who's going to win?
Of mine, I don't think you need to look any further than Goshen or the horse at Haydock as well, Porticello.
All right, a nice high-profile double. Gary Moore, it's been absolutely sensational talking to you again. All the best for the year ahead. Let's hope the horses remain nice and calm this weekend for you.
Thank you very much.
There we are then. Gary Moore, what an absolute pleasure. Straight talker, isn't he?
Yeah, great, big fan
Bit
of
like
Gary.
yourself?
Well, I tried to be, but big fan of Gary. I mean, he's a great trainer, isn't he? And he's a no-nonsense kind of guy, my kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he reckons that he's going to have 2 winners this weekend at least.
Yes, indeed. We won't tell Pat Cooney what they were, who had to sit that out. We'll let you get on them before he goes and buzzes into the traders. But we can now, Pat, start previewing the big races. It's one of the long-standing old RSA trials, now the Brand Advisory Novices Chase, of course. Monkfish won it last year. You know the one. The Rendlesham 150. What sort of market have we seen? Muddling to my eyes.
Yes, there's just the 6 runners, isn't there? And when you think the outsider of the party is just 8 to 1, you have to put them all in the race with some sort of a chance. Does he know his favourite at 9 to 4? And if you're going on official ratings, he's got £4 and beyond in hand. And rightly so, sits at the top of the market. Kim Bailey, David Bass, good progressive type. My eye is drawn to Lucinda Russell with Correct Rambler. Now, they've had a busy couple of days, haven't they? They were at Sandown on Thursday, had a winner. I presume they went all the way back home again. And now they're coming all the way down to Ascot with Correct Rambler. On the face of it, a bit of a... not quite sure what happened last time out at Warwick in a good-looking race. He seemed to run in snatches a bit. And I think we were all waiting for the day when they put cheek pieces on him or some sort of a headgear. Well, he's got his tongue tied down for the first time. Maybe that will help him. I'm inclined to think he could be marked up as a better horse than that Warwick run suggests. The time before at Cheltenham, he looked a horse going places. So I'll honour Correct Rambler and good luck with the travelling for Team Russell.
Okay, thanks, Pat. So well established, of course, and this is what we like to do on What a Shout. We're not one of these shows that cuts and edits too much. I got the name wrong. It's the Reynolds Town, of course. With the Rendlesham we are going to up at Adok, please, God.
Exactly. The Rendlesham's a hurdle, Dave.
Yeah, it's coming up after this.
Reynolds Town, is obviously a recognised trial for the Brown Advisory RSA, as it was.
Who wins it?
Doyen Breed. For me, Sandy Thompson.
Yeah, who bumped into A.M. Thompson, actually, isn't it? Yeah, and that's not Sandy Thompson, is it? It's another Thompson, isn't it?
Sandy Thompson.
Is it Sandy Thompson?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Ryan Mania.
Ryan Mania definitely rise it. Real strong staying performance last time up at Adok behind a leading National Hunt Chase fancy in 3 under 3 5.
Yeah, behind 3 under 3 5. Was coming back at 3 under 3 5 near the finish. Now, the one thing Sandy Thompson's horses always do is handle really testing ground. So Storm Eunice won't have been a problem for Doyen Breed. He looked like he stayed really well. He's going to need to probably brush up his jumping a little bit because he went through the top of a few of them. But I did like the way he was keeping on. That 3 under 3 5 for me is one of the most underrated staying novices in Britain and Ireland. He just keeps winning races and everyone says, oh, he's not that good. Oh, he's still 16 to 1 for the Brown Advisory. But, you can only keep winning these races and he keeps winning. And I think Doyen Breed is a class apart here on soft ground.
Okay. 3 under 3 5 is a key horse in this race, of course, the Nichols Raider, because he beat Does He Know when we last saw that chap at Haydock, I've done it again, at Cheltenham, actually. I know one of the owners of this, and they're not convinced. It's a bit of an acid test for him on Saturday. Going this way around, they're not sure. He has shown quirks in the past, as we well know. What would a windy daylight be for him? I think unanimously we're looking at him as maybe one to take on. Really nice horse. Dave Jennings.
He's a sort of very, very talented horse, but he's not always the most fluent, is he? He can belt one here and there.
On up in the ante, Dave Jennings has put him up as his ultimate horse. And I asked the question to the owners, and if he comes through this, they will probably look at Cheltenham. But they are thinking maybe more wait for entry, then go to Perth, believe it or not. They love a trip up there. So that's what's on his menu. Cheap pieces are for Doyen Breed. I worried about him hitting one and hitting a flat spot. Talk about flat spot last time for Annual Invictus. And Carl Mitchell, one of our producers here, said, I fancy that tomorrow, while we were off air. I had to look back at that replay. I was struggling to find one. Watch that back on your members club. Behind Eldorado.
Yeah.
Was it not
It was
Eldorado?
at Plumpton, wasn't it?
What's the horse called? Which
Elixir de Nuts.
Elixir de Nuts. We're making all sorts of mistakes this morning.
But this horse has got the best single piece of form in the race, which is the Cheltenham run.
So why didn't you like him?
But I didn't like that run last time. I thought that he looked lazy.
He was a million turning for home, and he gets beaten 2 lengths.
Yeah, I mean, he's an amazing run. And if the cheek pieces do turn him around, then fair enough. But I always think with these horses, when they sort of get a bit lazy, they tend to go that way, don't they?
Chris Gordon's horses are running again, though, aren't they? Which is good, and he'll do for me in a tricky race. Storm Eunice then causing a few problems up here in the old grey matter for Dave Orton. Shall we pop up to Haydock for another great race preview for you? And it is not the Reynolds Town, the Rendlesham for you. Won last year by Third Win. Let's wait for the market update from Pat. Let's go through them. I thought Third Win was overpriced here. I want to take on Thomas Darby. Molly Ollie's Wishes. Is that how I pronounce that one?
Molly Ollie's Wishes, yeah.
I'm getting there. Come on. I've had a run now. I'm good. I think she probably is the danger, but third win for me. I know he's got to give way to weight. Sets up perfectly. This is his win of the season.
You liked that form, didn't you, last year?
I did. Do you remember?
Listener
Oscar was in it, yeah.
And I rubbished it.
Are you trying to trump me now, are you?
Well, I like third wind, and I backed him at Ascot first time out, wasn't it, in the long walk, and he was beating a mile.
Yeah.
I mean, he needs bog heavy and a trip.
Welcome to Haydock on Saturday. There is, of course, a course inspection at 8 a.m. Mainly due to the wind. I think they're thinking that might have gone through, but the ground already heavy as it is. Curtain Tell Right will miss a few fences if it is on. Who wins this race? Come on.
Yeah, Topville Ben is the bet, isn't he?
Oh.
Talk about horses that are going to love heavy ground. I mean, Topville Ben's an absolute mudlark. He's a swimmer.
It was a very good piece of placing at Lingfield last time by a trainer that places his horses extremely well, Phil Kirby. I just thought he beat an Ematom that maybe doesn't want it anymore.
Yeah, possibly. But he go back, watch the race. He leads the whole way. And then he comes to the last, and he's like huge at the last, massively overjumps it, and then his ears are going up the running like he's got loads left in hand.
Yeah.
He's had one.
Was on the blind side in that race.
He might have been.
He was well backed, I think, that race.
Might have been.
And Gav Sheehan, who was on Ematom, was watching him all the way, thinking, I've got to beat this one. They let him go, I think.
He's had one completed start at Haydock over hurdles, 2 miles 7 furlong on heavy, won by 29 lengths. The other time he ran at Haydock on heavy, over 2 miles 7 over hurdles, he was clear when he fell. I just think a Haydock heavy horse, Topville Ben.
We don't like the fav then, Pat Cooney. Do you?
Do you know, with this Thomas Darby fella, I always think he's the type of horse I'd happily back at like 16, 20 to 1 at Cheltenham or at Aintree, and he'll give me a good run for my money at a big price. Asking me to back him round about 7 to 4, 2 to 1, I'm not so sure he's that type of a horse, really. Yeah, I get it on official ratings. He's got £10 and beyond in hand. But I thought it was interesting, although he's got the form book chance, you look at some of those comments from the trainer, Ollie Murphy, when he's run. Now, in October 18, he said here when he won, he wouldn't want the ground too soft, and that was on goodish ground. Then at Ascot after that, he doesn't want winter ground. So you're now asking people to back this horse at 7 to 4, 2 to 1 on ground that he's probably not as effective on. But where do you go? Do you go with the £10 in hand, or do you go when he doesn't quite like the ground? I think he'll probably just about get away with it. I look at Molly's Ollie at the wheel. She does her stuff in mares races, doesn't she? So I'd be against her this time around. Third Wind won this a year ago. Ematon won it 2 years ago. I get the Topville Ben. And who knows what we're going to see with Holstone, Nigel Twiston Davis. He's not run for 455 days, but he's a capable horse. Can he come back after a layoff in that ground? Not so sure. I end up with Thomas Darby, but I'm a bit lukewarm about his chances.
Okay, some love for the fav out there, but I think, look no further than the topically named Third Wind. Let's go to Ascot then. Really competitive 3-mile handicap chase, 225. Pat Cooney, who's been hot?
Well, it's all about Fiddler on the Roof, and hopefully this is going to be a new trend, isn't it? They're running good class horses in very competitive handicaps when they have to give weight all round. Fiddler on the Roof, class act in a race, 11.10, 155. Not the rudest handicap mark in the world, and he sits there as a well-backed favourite. Bit of caution with this race, though. You've got Ask Me Early and number 6, Sojourn. Their first engagement is at Wincanton in a smaller run race, so whether they rock up for Ascot remains to be seen. So keep an eye on the weather and possible abandonments there. So Ask Me Early, he was my idea of the likely Welsh Grand National winner. He didn't run in it, but he's still very much a horse of interest to me. If he misses Wincanton to come here, he would be my pick. But there's others in the race. Caribbean Boy, he's finally got rid of those sort of postcode form figures, hasn't he? His form figures are now a 7P OF1. Everywhere you go, everyone always seems to end up giving this horse some sort of a chance, so he'll be popular. But I do think Ask Me Early, 139, I keep thinking he's a better horse than that.
All right, okay, so still going forward for Harry Fry, trainer having another great resurgence out there at the moment. G-Rod, come to you about Caribbean Boy.
Yes.
Because you were absolutely convinced, weren't you, that this would win the Topham last year. I had a little conversation with Keith Melrose, actually, the betting editor, about this chap. He wanted to know whether maybe he was going to go to Kempton, of course, next week, or was coming here. If you look at the Kempton race next week, which we're going to cover for you, of course, Nichols has got the top weights in it all. They're going to rise, we think. He's coming here. It looks a winnable race. They're tempted to go for the National, not the Topham this time. Is he on your radar? Are you forgiving man?
Yeah, he's my selection, Caribbean Boy. Obviously, I was absolutely livid with the starter last year at Cheltenham, wasn't I? Remember when he lost all that ground at the start? Then he stormed home and finished 7th. It was an amazing run, you know, by Caribbean Boy, and then he beat Fiddler on the Roof at Newbury off level weights. He's getting £6 off Fiddler on the Roof.
That was the day when we thought, okay, he's arriving on the scene.
Yeah, and he jumped so well that day.
He's a bit of an oxo horse, isn't he? You can't really sit your clock by him, can you?
Yeah, he has been a bit like that. I mentioned this to someone today. I fancy Caribbean Boy. They said, yeah, but he won last time out. He won't win this time. And I do see that argument. He is a bit like that.
Yeah.
But they stuck cheap pieces on him, didn't they? Which wasn't first time, but when he won first time, he fell at the first. So it was pretty much first time. And he stormed home that day at Kempton when he won last time. And the form is okay. The third, Wishing and Hoping, finished second behind Celeb Dalen, who a lot of people have been hyping up at Warwick. And he was well beaten by Caribbean Boy, who stormed home. So, yeah, I like Caribbean Boy. I think Fiddler on the Roof's the right favourite, but he's got to give £6 to Caribbean Boy, who's already beaten him off level weight.
I just don't like the odds of Fiddler on the Roof. I get Pat's point about the two non-runners. Watch out for that because the complexion of the race will change. It's an odds thing for me. I thought the Cobolobo was overpriced. He loves this track. This time last year, roughly, he got a 145. He still won handicap. And I think they've, John Joe's horse, because he got beaten last time, this is slightly stronger, but 12 to 1-ish. We're better.
He's the sort of horse who usually wins this race, right? But it's usually a fairly weak race that's won by an old horse. This year, it's a strong race.
Are you suggesting that Regal Encore now, is he 14, Regal Encore?
Oh, I'm losing count.
He's definitely a teenager, isn't he? But yeah, he's in there as well. It does usually go to an older horse. Where are you going? Let us know. Is this one for the favs? Talking points then this week. Well, Wednesday saw the revelation of the national weights. Big lunch again. Great to see crowd back there enjoying. Wednesday. It was Wednesday, wasn't it?
The weights were Tuesday.
Were they?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. Okay, all right. Let's do that again. Well, talking points for you this week then. On Tuesday, saw the revelation of the Aintree Grand National weights coming out. As usual, the dance was done, but it was great to see scenes, wasn't it, of people being allowed back and having a nice big lunch for it. Conflated, the Irish Gold Cup winner. Whatever you think of him, he's at the top with Galvin, proper Gold Cup contender. I think he wins the Gold Cup, by the way. Mellon, who actually runs this Saturday, all being well, at Gowran Park. They're up there in the weights. Then you've got the likes of Chris's Dream. We've got to talk about Tiger, haven't we? The great Tiger. Not now going, Michael O'Leary says, for a third Grand National. What do you make of that?
I don't really understand what the big deal is, to be honest. It's a race. Run the horse in the race. What have they got to lose? He's already been round there twice and won it twice. It's not like it's a welfare issue like they somehow tried to suggest, didn't they?
Well, a little bit, but we had this last year, didn't we? Pat, let's bring you in on this. Lots has been said about it this week already. It's getting a bit tiring, G, isn't it? It's like...
Oh, yeah.
But Ed Chamberlain...
Because
Pat,
it's nonsense, too, isn't it?
Of course it is. The whole thing is a bit nonsensical, isn't it? Ed Chamberlain, ITV Supremo, came out to us this week, Pat, and said, without Tiger running, what on earth's going on? The people are going to be wondering, where's Tiger Roll? I'm going to get that. G's going to get that. You're going to get that. Everyone watching this is going to get that. Barry Hearn, of course, great piece on the front page of your Racing Post on Friday. The sports promoter said, unfortunately, no one wins, racing loses.
Yeah, I think things have changed, though. We didn't have Tiger Roll in the race last year, and we probably had one of the most famous results of all time with Manila Times winning. And just on Manila Times, how lucky are we that Michael O'Leary doesn't own him? He's gone up £15 for winning the Grand National. I'm sure he'd have had something to say about that. I think Tiger Roll, he's been there, he's done it. I don't know why they didn't say, look, we're not happy about the weight. Let's see what happens in the cross country at Cheltenham. What if he dops up by 20 lengths at Cheltenham in the cross country and he's clearly at the top of his game? I think they should have just said, yeah, not happy. We're going to run in the cross country. We'll make a decision after that, and it's down to Gordon. But like you say, it just becomes a little bit more tedious. The show's moved on. We had a Grand National last year without Tiger Roll. Turnover was the biggest and best it's ever been. It's not about Michael O'Leary. It's not about Tiger Roll anymore, sadly. We have Rachel Blackmore in town. She's the story now, isn't she? And it's going to be a tremendous race, as it always is. And, we can live without Tiger Roll now, sadly. And, good. He's there. He's in the record books. But life goes on.
OK, thanks, Pat. Absolutely. So, yeah, of course, there's the welfare issue of the horse. But if he does go and dot up at Cheltenham, was that the fourth best career of his lifetime? I saw someone. It might have been James Stevens put that in the post this week. And has the race become, this is what I'm interested in, from Eugene. Has the race become a race for horses that show their hand after the weights have come out now, rather than your number 6 Valverde's, who's my classic go-to example of a horse that's properly plotted, wins the Thyestes Chase in Ireland the year before, and then gets mapped out, runs over hurdles, protect the mark, unleash at Aintree, old school staying tight. The race has been modified, as we well know. Younger horses can win it. There's only one teenager during the race. Our front running Chris Cook sat in that chair last week, has gone deep on the race this week. And Chris is obsessed with it, but it's been great reading. Are you going to wait for something to come out like Tiger Roll, or maybe this weekend in the Grand National Trial, if it's on, please God, or something like the Ida next week?
Well, it's not quite as easy to do it as you used to, because the qualifying conditions have changed so much, haven't they? And like I think now you have to have had 5 runs at least over fences, and you have to have completed once that season. Is that correct? And there's a bunch of other stipulations involved. So you can't just now stick them over hurdles for a year and then go, oh, well, we'll rock up for the National off a good weight. You do have to be quite careful about your planning. There were quite a few horses this week, I can't remember the names of them, who were entered, and then they realised that they weren't qualified because they hadn't met this criteria or that criteria.
Well, the Midlands National winner, whose name escapes me at the moment, Time Flies By, is that right? Or Time to Get Up. That's it. Thank you, Pat. We could hear you in the background there cheering from the rafters. Of course, 5 runs. He's had problems, John Joe says. But why not give him more time to run? You know, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's a totally different race. Like the fences are different. It's just an entirely different race. And
have you found one is the next question.
I
People will be shouting for it. G-Rob wants to know. You've obviously put Cloth Cap up this week. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Cloth Cap is a bit of a project, isn't he? Because he went off hot favourite last year. And
he swallowed his tongue nearly, didn't he?
Yeah, and it didn't work out for him. But they've managed to get him down to race off the same mark, £1 lower than the mark that he raced off last year when he was 11-2 favourite and was something like 14, 15, 16 pound well in after winning the race at Kelso. So how they've managed that, I don't know. But he's not actually run that badly if you look at his runs this season. He's been up there the whole way, jump well. I think he was in the Ladbrokes Trophy.
He cried enough, didn't he, at Ascot? But that was probably a terrible ground, wasn't it?
Yeah, they went hard.
I see a bit of gunpowder treason and plot with that.
What about Discorama for the lads at the Black Lion pub?
Your favourite owner, Andrew Gamble and Paul Nolan.
Andrew Gamble and Paul Nolan.
He ran a blinder. I feel so much for that horse. He desperately deserves to win, doesn't he?
He does deserve a big one. Yeah. He's on the radar. I've seen a few shouts for Mount Ida. Could you imagine her winning a Grand National?
Physically got her right,
but look at the way she jumped last year at Cheltenham. She jumps out to her right.
But they think they've ironed out a physical kink there, don't they? So that's interesting.
Well,
she is interesting.
I fancy her for the Mare's Chase, but
she's going to go up in the weights. I think we need to look for a
havoc.
Comply or Die this year. I really do. Who went and won the Ida, had it like Cloth Cap last year. I think it's now become a race for a horse that's ahead of the handicapper. Any second now. Should have won the race potentially last year. Very unlucky. Ted Walsh will be gutted to have £7 or more. Farclas was the other one I wanted to take out the race. He's quietly gone under the radar for it. £7 more on his back.
But do you think these weights really make that much difference? An extra £7 there, an extra £7 there. Well, when it comes to the Grand National,
that's the next question I've got for you. Pat, I'll bat this one over to you. Is there such thing as an Aintree factor anymore?
Not really. When we come to price up, you kind of know that Manila Times is going to be popular. That being said, he is 25-1. But, you talked about the weights coming out on the Tuesday. If I said to you, the best 2 backed horses with us since the weights came out are both trained in Ireland, wouldn't you automatically presume, which one of Gordon Elliott's is it? Which one of Willie Mullins is it? No, the 2 best backed horses, try this one. Longhouse Poet won the Thyestes, Martin Brazil. He's been very popular. He's now 16-1, and I get that. And another one is number 43, so he should get in. Enjoy Dalen, trained by Kieran Murphy. And that was the other hot mover as well. Now, he was 3rd in the Irish National, so he's got a bit to find, in theory. So, yeah, it's just wide open. But people aren't looking at the race saying, what's he like over the Aintree fences? That being said, the one I quite like is Noble Yates, admittedly only a 7-year-old. But the Whaley Cohens have bought him, and Sam Whaley Cohen, he seems to get round every year, whatever he rides in the Grand National. But my best advice to everyone, wait till the day. Everyone's going to go weird and wacky each way terms on the race with probably not a great deal of movement at the top of the market. Keep your powder dry, wait for the day, and who knows, Tiger Moral might still turn up.
You listen, if he goes and hoses up at Cheltenham like he did last year, I can see it happening. So, look, it's great. The Roundnots Grand National comes back on the 9th of April. We have the weights out. Who do you like? Who's your long-range pick? Have they mentioned the winner yet? Snow Leopardess didn't get a mention. Great that crowds are going to be back enjoying it in Liverpool too. Back up to Haydock we go then. Let's hope the weather's not too bad in St Helens so we can actually watch this. It's the 240. It is the Grand National Trial. This is going to be a proper war of attrition, isn't it? Pat Cooney, give us the market update.
Well, this is one for the stats gurus in the offices, isn't it? It's at the Grand National Trial, 3.5 miles, heavy ground Haydock. What do you want? Well, you need to stay all day and you need to be very good on heavy ground. Unfortunately, that still leaves all 11 still in the race with some sort of a chance. So the market has made Secret Reprieve favourite. And again, I get it, lightly raced, unexposed. He won the Welsh National 2 seasons ago, didn't he? He's only £4 higher. His only run since then was in the same Welsh National, and we can give him a pass on that one, getting beat. He's very, very popular in the market, and he does seem well in of 138, doesn't he? But there's several in this race that have got leading claims. We can do all the Bristol to my running at Haydock on heavy gags as well, which is always nice on Twitter. My eye drawn to Sam Brown, who I think Royal Pegale is a very talented horse on very testing ground. Good friend of the show, Charlie Deutsch, agrees with that, of course. And Sam Brown made him work ever so hard, Royal Pegale, last time over this course. That was a month ago. He's had 28 days to recover. He's only a couple of pound higher, so I'll go for Sam Brown as a value alternative. But all 11 fit the stats criterias.
Yeah, he's sort of back of Protectorate, didn't he, by about 50 lengths as well. So he's got the class of the race. We know that Sam Brown loved the ground. I had this down to 2, but before I reveal my selections, one which you're going to love. Who wins?
I'm with Pat. Yeah, I think Sam Brown is the class act in the race. Watching that race at the Peter Marsh. Now, Royal Pegale on really testing ground, these are gold couples, and there was only one horse who had the ability to travel in the same way that Royal Pegale did, and that was Sam Brown. The rest of them were being shoved along miles out just to keep up and go to pace, and he pushed him all the way to the line. He was coming back right at the line. Now, of course, you're getting a lot of weight, but you're talking about a proper gold couple who went on to go and finish second in the Denman Chase last week behind Eldorado on ground that was definitely too quick for him. It was actually quite a good run by Royal Pegale.
Yeah, it was.
And Sam Brown was well clear of the rest. I think that he's just a different class. There's one concern, Dave. Very hard race he had that day.
That's why I crossed him off the line. Fortescue was third that day, runs into 225, all being well at Ascot. You'll get a line on that form. Remastered, looked like he was going to put it up to him and just dropped out the back of the telly a bit late on, didn't he? On Guard beat Remastered as he liked in the Tommy Whittle. Tommy Whittle is a natural progression for this sort of race for Peter Marsh. Until the ground turned Haydock heavy, I wanted to be with On Guard, and I have backed him. But your horse runs for a trainer that can do no wrong at the moment, called Ben Clark, the Galloping Bear.
The Galloping Bear.
If you can gallop around Lingford over 3 mile 5 and win as you like, right, on heavy ground, Haydock's going to be right up your street. And we don't know how good this guy is yet. Did you see the winner he had at Sandown?
Yeah.
My Lord.
Dr. Kananga.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this, I don't know, he's got a hot streak about him at the moment.
Yeah,
Ben
you're
Clark.
right. They're flying, aren't they? Ben Clark.
I thought you were certainty to put this up,
Is
mate.
it Ben Clark and Ben Jones?
Yeah, that's
the
right.
two Bens.
The two Bens. And the Galloping Bear. I've got one sitting next to me. If it's on, he'll win. Let's go to Wincanton, shall we? For the Kingwell, and it's 3:20. It is, of course, oh my Goshen time. We've heard from Gary Moore, who gave us the insight, strongly fancies him. Said, Pat, you missed this, that Adagio, he knows from the pipe yard, is expected to go close. They've got to give him a bit of weight. But Goshen, he's mustard going right-handed on soft ground. He's mustard in small fields. He thinks it'll outspeed him. What do you reckon?
Yes, when I saw the entries for Wincanton, the one thing I thought, and I know Goshen won by 1,000,000 miles in this race last year, that race sort of fell apart, really. But I was thinking, God, it's only 1 mile, 7 furlongs. Goshen wants a lot further than that nowadays. Connections have even implied that, haven't they? They say he wants to move up in trip. 1 mile, 7 round Wincanton, a very sharp track. Not quite sure, but it is soft ground. And he has got the recency bias, hasn't he? He only ran a fortnight ago. Adagio clearly had a setback. We've not seen him for, 11 weeks. On that basis, I'll go with Goshen. I'd just rather the race was over and further than 1 mile 7, though. Yeah, likely winner maybe. But at odds on, you've been asking back a horse who this trip is definitely a bare minimum for him.
Do you think he'll drift, Pat, just sticking with you? I mean, he's now a sort of public imagination horse, and loads of people looking forward to this. Won the race last year, but Adagio is, if there's one horse for the champion hurdle.
Yeah, I think Adagio will be very solid in the market. You've got a Dan Skelton third in at 14-1, so that'll hold his place in the market as well. I think with Goshen, as I say, Can you get him beat over the trip? Yeah, definitely. Can you get him beat right-handed? How many times have we had this conversation? But of course, he has won Sandown and here a year ago. I think you've more reasons to take Goshen on than be a backer of him. I'd rather be a layer than a player, as they say.
All right, okay. I'm on the opposite to that actually. In this, I've a lot of favs that I think look stinky to me. I'm not too keen to take him on. If the Goshen turned up at Sandown on February the 5th, as we spoke to Gary about, I think he'll see off Adagio. Adagio's a bit more of a grinder for me. It'd be very interesting to see the tactics. If he can hit a 165, he probably can. But can he do it first time back after a layoff in a tactical affair? Not sure. You think Goshen will get beat?
Yeah, I didn't have the bottle to tell Gary that.
Quelle surprise.
I thought he might come and duff me up if I told him that Goshen will win. Yeah, I'm with Adagio. I think Adagio will beat him. I think that he's a lot more exciting a horse now than Goshen is. Goshen, we know his level. It's around 164, 165 on Racing Post rating. I think Adagio's definitely got the ability to get there. That run first time out off a long layoff at Cheltenham, rock solid on the times. He's carrying a big weight, which is very...
In the Greatwood.
Yeah, in the Greatwood. Excellent effort. Obviously second in the Triumph. He bumped into Monreal when he was second. He's a very, very good 4-year-old and 5-year-old. And 5-year-olds, they always say this is a tough year for them, but the last 3 winners of this were all 5.
Yeah, Paul Nicholls used to like to take this up with a 5-year-old, didn't he? All right, it's the Kingwell. Goshen or Adagio? Let us know below. Grade 1 time here on What a Shout. The final big race preview for you. That's right, 3:38. I'm not going to go on about my bugbear about times, but who thought that one up? It is the Ascot Chase. Pat Cooney. This, some people are saying, is a weak Group 1, but my Lord, it looks competitive.
It certainly does. Last year's winner, Dashel Drasher, of course, rocks up for the race. And popular though he is, this is a lot harder than the race he won last year. But he's a very popular horse, and I'm sure he'll have his backers. The mover during the week was Joseph O'Brien's Fakir Dudar, and I'm sure he'll be relieved not to be walking around looking at Allaho in the parade ring opposite him, because Allaho seems to beat him every run he has. It's just about the best form, this Irish raider, but he's been popular. He's no bargain in the race. You can leave them all in with a chance. There's some big name horses at big prices, and Lost in Translation, okay, he's not the horse maybe of old. He's there at 12, 2 for Gold, talented at 25. I keep looking, at a horse who won this very race 4 years ago, Waiting Patiently, and he beat Q Card on merit that day. Now, I know it was 4 years ago, and if you'd said to me, Waiting Patiently won't win another race at all, well, fair enough. He has run some decent races. It's a bit of a leap of faith, but he is around about 25-1. It's Christian Williams. Christian wouldn't be running him unless he was sending out the right signals. I think a horse like him, you could have a few quid each way on, and if he disappoints, so be it. But he spent his life being single-figure prices for much better races than these. So I'm going to take a wild stab at this with Waiting Patiently at 25-1. How about that?
Now, that is a wild stab. But have you got the bottle to say he can't possibly win, because we've got Christian Williams coming on the show next week? So don't ruin it.
No, I was going to suggest that he was an interesting price, Waiting Patiently, because obviously when he won that race at Ascot, the Ascot Chase 4 years ago, beating Q Card, he did it really well, didn't he? He was hard on the steel, light soft ground. If they've got him back, then it's a massive price, isn't it? But
do you imagine the scenes if he won this? It's been one of those. I
can't see it, but he has got the ability.
Yeah, I got to say, Christian, turn on the mute. He was the first one I put a line through, actually. Fakir Dudari's price now, travelled over obviously on Thursday, missed all the storms. This is probably his one next to his name before Aintree, isn't it? It depends whether they go for the Ryanair with him again, second last year by a distance, of course. And that form does look better, doesn't it, when you see the King George winner was back in third and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
The thing with these Irish horses, I've got this bee in my bonnet, as I keep saying, is that I think a lot of people just go, oh yeah, Irish form, that's better than the British form, right? 5-2 favourite.
And fair formula at the minute.
Well, they put them in too short. I mean, he's not got better form, in my opinion, than some of the others in the
We're
race.
agreeing on this, which is terribly worrying.
I like Mr. Fisher, who obviously absolutely thrashed. He thrashed Eldorado LN last week.
They were thrilled with him.
Yeah.
He's had back problems. They got him right. Hendo tends to have a lot of back problems, Epatante and the like, doesn't he? But they've got this bloke right again, and a lot of people have been worried about his mind. But if he hadn't have made that Horlicks of an error, mistake, a blunder in the Ryanair last year, I think he'd have beaten Fakir Dudari's up the hill. But I don't know. The ground was my worry, but this is the race for him.
The ground is a worry. He has won on soft ground, and when he won on soft at Cheltenham, I think it was, the time suggested it was more heavy. So I think he'll get through it.
You look at his profile, he is fine.
I think
he
he'll
wants
get
a bit
through
further
it,
as well,
but
doesn't
I
he?
think he would ideally prefer better ground
Yeah,
if he could. But
2
I wouldn't
miles
be
6
too
would
worried.
be perfect for Mr. Fisher.
But
Got a grey
the thing that really struck me about that race at Kempton is watch from 3 out to the line. Rouge Vif, who is a good horse, was right with them at the third last. They left him 30 odd lengths behind.
It was a pleasure to watch
two.
him if you backed him last time. And let's face it, he owed punters quite a bit,
Obviously,
didn't he?
Eldorado LN won the Denman Chase.
He's got the Frodo form as well, hasn't he? The Frodon form, of course, at
I
Sandown.
mean, a lot of people said to me, I don't think he's a Grade 1 horse, Mr. Fisher.
Well, lots
just falls short.
were looking at this
This
race
is
and
his
saying,
chance.
who's the Grade 1 horse? And Pat is obviously looking at waiting patiently. But you've got Fanny and Destraval, who ran a good trial for it last time in the handicap. That Dashel Drasher won. Dashel Drasher is the other one I'll save on. He's got his ground. He's tough as they like. Great story this would be, wouldn't it? Won it last year, but it is a tougher race.
It's a much tougher race. Fanny and Destraval taking the same route as Dashel Drescher off that handicap, off a big weight. Obviously got beat there. Dashel Drescher won it. It's a really good race this year, isn't it, the Ascot Chase?
It's a good race. Whether there are barnstorming stars in there, you used to have, like Corto used to turn up to, didn't he? I remember
I don't think there's a Corto star in here.
That's my point. St Calvados, I'm against him. He'd be one of my lays of the day, I think. So lots of people pressing the back button there. We're agreeing. Let's get your rods out for Mr. Fisher. Weekend winner time here on What a Shout. Let's get the naps out and I'll go first. You heard, of course, from Gary Moore. Didn't put you off the double of Goshen and Porticello. His 2 strongly fancied TV runners tomorrow. Away from the TV, 3:58 at Wincanton. I like Mr. Glass, who ran in the Tolworth over an inadequate trip last time. Bryony Frost back on. Wincanton, Paul Nicholls probably wins. Graeme.
I'm going to go with Sam Brown in the 240 at Haydock, the Grand National Trial.
Against the Galloping Bear.
Against the Bear.
This is making me more confident on him. Pat Cooney.
3 o'clock Ascot, good risk at all. And just a long drawn out explanation, sadly. But he won his bumper. He beat I Like to Move It, who just got chinned on the line in the Betfair. I Like to Move It got beat off 138. This fella, good risk at all, gave him £13 and beat him a couple of lengths. So he should be rated 150 odd, taking bumper form to hurdle form. He's also run well against John Bon. He turns up here off 127. Got to be a well-handicapped horse. Good risk at all. Good, well-handicapped horse.
All right, yeah. Hasn't quite come up to that bumper form yet, has he, friend of the show, Sam Thomas. There are your weekend naps. What's your best bet of the weekend? Get them in below. Well, sadly, that's all we've got time for on this week's What a Shout. Great to have Gary Moore on, wasn't it? Great to have G-Rod, who made it into the studio, man. Good luck on your way back.
Yeah, it's rattling, isn't it? The wind through this studio, so I don't know what's happening outside, but I hope my car's all right,
You
Dave.
might be onto something yet. Red Zone, in all seriousness, everyone that's looking after horses this weekend, you don't know how much we appreciate you out there keeping the wheels turning. Good luck. Let's hope everything goes your way. Pat Cooney, feet up for you, is it?
Yes, it is. Yes, hopefully we can see off this dreadful Eunice character and have a great weekend's racing.
Thank you very much, Pat Cooney. Thank you very much for watching out there. Keep your comments coming in for the panellists. Do download the free Must Have Racing Post app. You can do it on the App Store or the Google Play Store. Gamble responsibly. Cheltenham's just around the corner. Until then, from myself, Dave Orton, enjoy the sport.